Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm John Filipek with SHI International Corp, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Captain Brian Erickson, Chief Data Officer for the United States Coast Guard. How are you doing today, Brian?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me on, John. I really appreciate it.
What business challenges are you most excited to go out and solve, by implementing a data literacy strategy, right? Like there's so many different unique areas that you could kind of tackle, but how does it directly relate back to the Coast Guard and some of the things that, you view in terms of what you'd like to tackle in the coming years here?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I would say that our entire organization is on a mission to do better business processes across the organization. The commandant, one of the things that the commandant wants to get after most is to overhaul our talent management system, and this really lines up very well with my workforce development line of effort. When I look at workforce development as the CDO, I am really I'm focused on the whole organization, but I'm starting with the data professionals. So I'm looking at the analysts, and I'm looking at how we need to upskill our organization to use artificial intelligence in areas that will increase mission success. Beyond that, I'm looking at the data executive. I mean, one thing that I'm starting to have the conversation about with our senior executives are, hey, listen, all of you are business unit leaders, all of you are data executives. Data is not an IT function. That is old school of thought, and changing the perspective on data being a business function, a core business function, is what is happening over the last year, and is going to continue to happen. So that's going to be one area where I, as the CDO, will focus with tailored opportunities with our senior executives, as well as senior level personnel that can make change within the organization. We also need to look at the tip of the spear operator out there, and not forget this. It's really easy here in Washington D.C. to forget about that crew that you left down at the air station. When I was stationed there a couple of years back, and what it is that they need. And I talk about this with my staff quite often. We have to remember at all times the number one goal is to get value and mission success in the hands, tools for mission success in the hands of our frontline operators, whether that's edge computing capability, edge analytics, artificial intelligence that can be used for targeting or other activities to make their job easier. And then core to our data strategy is reducing the manual entry burden to the entire Coast Guard, but definitely to frontline operators. So those are some of the things when I think of data literacy and workforce development that I want to affect from the CDO chair.
That's awesome, and I'm sure all the frontline people definitely appreciate that, right? Because that's at the end of the day the hardest part, right? Is to connect some of the bigger back office streams, if you will, with some of the practicality of what they need in real time. Because to your former person's point, right? That you said they're going to look different tomorrow. So trying to almost use the data to kind of predict which direction, like you said, whether it's using the AI or even just collecting the data and being able to analyze it on your end at a bigger scale, can hopefully make those decisions easier for you. But what you've mentioned already is that the ability to be agile is going to be one of the biggest advantages that you have on your end. And I love to hear that, because that's being able to not only just, a lot of people take the data, review the data, but they can't necessarily act on the data because, again, some of these pieces are moving either too quickly around them, or they're not able to enact something quick enough, because then the data is changing 2 days from them because of all of the different, data points that you're pulling things in from. So I love that idea of being able to, do what you just mentioned.
Yeah, and we want to be able to operate with speed, and we're still coming alive. We just planted the flag in September, and there's a lot of foundation work that needs to be done to ensure security and privacy, and even the pathways and the tech available so that we can move at speed. And I am tied in very, very close with our CIO, who is, delivering new capability. We just stood up a cloud and data branch at our C5I service center, which is really going to help the CDO office, the data folks, the analytics personnel, as well as anyone that is using has cloud computing needs within the organization. We are partnered very, very close with them. We've also got a software factory that we are starting to work on within the C5I service center. And this is really kind of under the CIO's umbrella, who wants to move forward the ability to build custom applications so that frontline operators or even any business unit who needs new capabilities, tailored capabilities for our mission sets, which are very unique at times, they can have those at speed and scale. And so it's an exciting time right now to be in the space, which is again, it's not a space that I had ever been in before. I was really, if you look at my history of my career, I am squarely within aviation operations and mission support for aerospace engineering. That is the area where I've been, but stepping into the space today, it's just a great time to be here, and I have a great team and great partners.
Yeah, no, and again, like the enthusiasm absolutely jumps, through the screen here, right? So I have no doubt, like I said, that you're in the right spot. So early on, then, as you guys mentioned, you're right, still spinning things up. How do you plan on measuring success in this first year, right? Because I'm sure success tomorrow looks a lot different than what you think it might be a year from now, 2 years, 5 years down the road type of thing. So in this first year, for anybody who's also trying to kind of spin up their own organization, or maybe even garner some of that initial buy-in from, some of that C-suite, what's kind of your way to look back on this first year and say, hey, this, are milestones that we're checking off?
Yeah, sure. So, like anything new, you literally and anything new and things that are moving fast, you will go week by week and realize you want more and you want more and you want more and you want more. And so, when you build a team that is going to be transformative, you need your innovators, you need your change agents. I feel like you need a strategist. At times, this strategist can be the person who anchors you back to not paying attention to the shiny object that's right there, really easy to grab, but anchors you back to some of the foundational work for which you were designed and built to achieve. You need someone who understands the business. You need someone who understands finance and money for sure. So you build this team, and sometimes you don't get to pick your team, but you get everybody lined up so that you're all headed down the common direction. You load them all on the ship, and you get that ship underway from the pier. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. We wanted to accomplish having a data strategy. First off, where are we going, and what is the document we can operate under, and continue to kind of link back to and move forward. And I'll be honest, it's changing so fast in the space. I already want to update that. I'd say 50% of it I like, and 50% I want to change already. But we got that. We put down a cloud adoption strategy. We established a data governance board that is chaired at the flag officer level, and my boss is under mission support and operations. Both are chair of that particular board, and so we have membership across all of the business units, including the operational commanders, that can make decisions basically right under the top of those particular organizations. We stood up another level down, a data governance committee that can, prep the battle space for the board, determine what decisions the board needs to make, work out all of the issues at the really the office chief level, before the board, takes on those issues. We needed a data lexicon, so we established the first Coast Guard data lexicon so that we're all talking the same language. We had to resource the office, and so we had to go to Congress to request the resources to ensure that we could staff this office with both active duty and civilian personnel. We needed a data environment, but first we needed to pilot one to ensure we knew exactly what we wanted to do and how we would go about onboarding users and determining what use cases we would need. So we started with a pilot data environment, and then we started to stand up another one. And our environment we call Surveyor, which is a name of one of the original revenue cutters that essentially formed the first cutters of the Coast Guard. And so Surveyor is our integrated data environment, and we have a suite of tools for ingestion and storage and analytics and an exploratory environment. And that is just coming online, where we will do both curated, highly curated environments like visualizations and dashboards, but also to have a space where analysts, who know codes like Python or R can do more raw data queries. So that's the tech that comes along, and there's a lot, and then every source system that we integrate into this environment, heck, if it was in the cloud, it'd be a lot better. So we have the cloud team that is standing up, probably application to application and modernizing the organization. And then we had to establish the Office of Data and Analytics, which we did just September 1st, building the nucleus, if you will, of data and artificial intelligence for the organization to form around. We had to establish some sort of a governance structure, and we decided to establish a governance structure that was federated. This core team of 13 people are not going to be able to fix the data of the Coast Guard that have the data within this organization has been around since 1790. So there needs to be more. Data is a team sport. I think we can all agree with that. And yep. So there's going to be more than just this core team. There will be federated data teams that are close to the data sources within individual domains, and those data teams will work for the business unit leaders, the flag officers in those domains, and they will prioritize their data needs, whether that's data quality, certain analytics products, use cases, whatever it happens to be, a movement towards artificial intelligence, whatever it happens to be. Those data teams will work for the business unit leads and will be a core member of that particular business unit. So all of these things, kind of bring us to here, and now we are testing and carrying that out. We awarded a contract for our first data governance catalog and data governance tool set, so that this governance structure that we set up will be able to talk to each other, integrate within a tech environment, and illuminate all of our illuminate all of our data sources, and so that we can get visibility and share those with our joint partners in DoD, as well as DHS and the other components around DHS.
I mean, that is a great, that sounds a lot like more than just a year went into that, but it's like to say that, hey, this is where we're at, like we're at ahead now. And this is what you're able to do, because again, back to our first kind of talking point, right? The time, energy, and diligence that was put into the planning committee, right? And understanding where all of the buy-in had to come in is now going to allow you guys to really hit the ground running in this first year, now that you consider it fully stood up, right? Like, I think a lot of the architecture behind it was really thought out pretty obviously exhaustively, right, to ensure that you would be able to get to this point and now start to really take advantage of the hard work of those committees ahead of time here. So true, John. But at the same time, don't think that we didn't make mistakes. We and we'll still uncover those. And so you were talking earlier about how you thought that it was a good idea for this office that we were agile and we're small and we're able to move quick and be a change management shop for the organization. And I'll tell you a story. I had a new
lieutenant junior grade, a young officer, come to my staff about a month and a half ago. And she came on board and started to sit in the office, for which right now we are in this very it's like a conference room. So there's no walls. We're in this open architecture where everybody can share ideas. And as we stay agile and we continue to move the organization forward with perhaps ideas that just hadn't come to light before. So after about a week, I bring her into my office and I say, hey, how do you like it? How do you like your job? Because she came off of a Coast Guard cutter serving in in Florida, where she was doing migrant interdiction, drug interdiction, and those types of operations. She comes up here to headquarters for her first time, and I said, hey, how do you like your job? And she said, my aunt and uncle asked me the other night how I liked my job, and I told them I loved it. And I told them that this is the closest thing to a startup that the Coast Guard has. And I thought about that. And I thought about it the whole weekend. And I've been in my opinion, she doesn't know. She hasn't been in the organization long enough to know if there's another part of the organization that could potentially be the startup. I've been in the organization for 30 plus years. I can't think of one. And so,
right.
and one of the commandant's tenets that we're moving forward with is we will sharpen our competitive edge. And the moment that I don't have the next JG come into my office and tell me that this feels like a startup is the moment we've lost some of our competitive edge. I want to keep that agility for as long as I can as we move forward.
That is honestly, that's amazing. And it's such a refreshing way to kind of look at, data, especially when you consider, right, a lot of individuals are putting it in place because either somebody's telling them to do it, or they're starting to realize, obviously, some of that competitive advantage that you're talking about by being able to self-scout to some degree, but then also implement it into some of the things, again, based on what your organization's looking to accomplish, how you're going to try and leverage the data. So to hear that you guys want that feeling, and like I said, the Coast Guard's been around for a very long time. I can't imagine that there's a feel for a startup, but to hear that you guys have that, I mean, that's going to attract a whole nother level of talent, I think, to your particular department, but to the Coast Guard in general, right? Because when you start to talk about some of the problems that you guys are looking to solve, not only do you have what, we would call, right, the end users best in mind, right? The ones who are actually in the field using the stuff, but you're now looking on how to take the Coast Guard as a whole, right, to a whole nother different place that it's never been to before. So you get to act on both ends of the spectrum, the very finite end users and some of the specific problems they're dealing with, but also the big picture, what you want the Coast Guard to stand for, represent, and kind of look like. You get to put a very, sturdy imprint on that, which is really cool to hear.
Yeah, and that is exactly right. It is a fun part of this job as the CDO, and you had mentioned in the beginning, kind of talking a little bit about leadership. Up to this point, I had not been in, it's essentially a C-suite job in any organization that wants to become data driven. They're going to make a CDO in the C-suite. So I have been, probably at a tactical level leader, much more than I needed to be in this job, but I also needed to understand this domain for which I had never, and really there isn't a lot of, data experts within the Coast Guard. We have never tried to build one. This is another thing that I need to do. I need to grow my next CDO, but we've never done that. But for me, I've been able to, over this last year, work and learn at the tactical level, but start to really think, strategically, which has been a transformation for myself as a leader. One thing that I would say that every team that is going to try to go do this, get a strategist on your team. I have got a great, my data governance and strategy lead. She is a great strategist, much better than me. And having her on the team is amazing. You should have a graphics person on the team too. Explaining what we're trying to do in data is very hard. I can easily explain what we're trying to do in helicopter rescue. I will take you down the pier. I will have the helicopter fly right up to the edge of the pier. I will put the rescue swimmer in the water, jump right out of the aircraft. He will rescue a person. They will hoist him back up and he'll fly away. It is really hard to tell you what I'm going to do with your data and how it's going to pop out on the other end. So a graphics person is helpful too.
No, absolutely. Because again, everybody obviously learns different ways, right? But I think that's huge, right? Because the thing that I picked up on that I also really, really liked was you guys creating that lexicon, right? Like being able to generate that one source of truth, I think is ultimately what's going to allow you guys to continue to be dangerous, right, within your space. It's because you're able to walk in and speak the same language up and down the organization. I want to thank you, Captain Brian Erickson, Chief Data Officer for the United States Coast Guard, for joining me here today. Please visit cdomagazine.tech for any additional interviews that you might want to review. And once again, Brian, thank you so much. The pleasure has truly been all mine speaking with you today. And thank you so much for your service, right? It does not go unappreciated on my end. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, John.